We're
Live,
here. It is
live.
connected. We're live. Hi, Steven. I'm
Mike, how you doing?
super, super happy to be speaking with you today. It was long overdue.
Yeah, definitely. Probably like what, a month and a half between the sessions. You got sick, then I got sick, and then now finally it's aligned, so it's working.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but I blame your EFT for me getting sick. So it's like it was a big releasing rather than being sick. But I'm very glad it aligned because today's topic is going to be a very interesting one. And it was like one that we automatically connected on, which is not just manifestation, because I think that it is being misused, like the word manifestation in general. Like a lot of people like to throw it around, but no one really understands what it truly is. We talk about the law of attraction, the law of assumption, and all like these different laws of the universe. And
Right.
there are so many books and things, and like we're really overwhelmed by information. But for me, it was only when I discovered Kevin Trudeau's manifestation through Your Wish is Your Command that it all clicked. And it was for the very first time that a creator, well, he's not a creator, an author, a public figure, was actually giving you the real secrets that we're missing. And I guess this is what we connected on because you also went through his seminars. And
Yep.
for anyone watching here, just to kind of like preface it, we will be talking about Kevin Trudeau, who is this very controversial figure in manifestation. And his book, Your Wish is Your Command, but not really the book. I never read the book. I just listened to the top secret seminars that I found somewhere online. And I will be sharing with everyone through an article afterwards. So, yeah.
Uh, well, it wasn't technically a separate book. It was just like a program that goes along with it that teaches on it. Yeah, I came across that about 2017. Uh, Manifesting was still kind of big. It took a while for The Secret to actually like proliferate and hit mainstream widespread. So when it did, that's what everybody's doing, and you're absolutely right. Everybody was missing the mechanics, and Kevin touched on something to me that is actually how I found out about EFT. He talked about, what you're supposed to do, the approach and all of that. But he talks about, well, what do you do when something happens? Let's say somebody you love's in a car crash, somebody passes, or you get a terminal diagnosis. That energy, he explained it. I'm not going to take a long time, but make sure. He said that energy gets trapped in your body. It's stuck energy in your energy body. And until it's removed, it's pretty much in control. So he kept mentioning Roger Craig or Gary Craig and Roger Callahan. And I was like, what's he talking about? The Callahan technique, Craig technique. So I went and looked it up, and then I started to go down the rabbit hole of what EFT, and then it said meridian tapping, and I understood meridian tapping from like Qigong and Tai Chi. So that all those things lined up. But then it went down even a deeper rabbit hole, because what I found with manifesting is that you're not actually you're not using a technique to do something. It's a state you're trying to attain that creates the attraction. So I'll basically, you're you're basically you're a transmitter. Your heart field is stronger than the brain. You know what I'm saying? You're broadcasting your state. Uh, Everything around you, reception is transmission greatly multiplied. So whatever's going out's coming back. That's manifesting. So it starts with you. So gold in, gold out. If you're consuming garbage, garbage out. Everybody knows that phrase, but I flipped it because that's kind of my approach. I only consume high signal, so all I goes out is high signal. So you radiate out what you're consuming.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Absolutely. I feel like this is the basis. And alongside what I want to add to it is that very specifically something he says, and that's the starting point that many of us are missing. You know, before getting into the deeper secrets that he talks about, that for me made it click, before there was this, where he says you need to take full responsibility of everything that
Right.
happens in your life, because you are responsible of everything. And that can be very, very difficult for some people to like accept, because what do you mean I personally got in a car crash when I was 5 years old, so it's like if I had to engage my logical mind here, it's like, well, what do you mean I created that? I was only 5. I could not really manifest, I could not really understand. But according to him, and something that I came to accept, and that changed everything for me, it's like, even if you are not consciously wishing for that or consciously manifesting that, it is the vibration that you emit. So you're not necessarily emitting car crash, car crash, car crash, or like sickness, 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 but there is an underlying feeling. And he talks a lot about the feelings, right? The feelings being our compass. There is an underlying feeling, perhaps the fear of being abundant, the fear of like being left out, the fear of whatever. And that feeling then translates into that accident, into that sickness. And what he asks is, well, think about how that event made you feel. And that was the feeling that you were broadcasting
Right.
before. And that's exactly what you just said around like the heart being this magnetic force versus the brain. So, my question to you, I guess, is
Can I
how do
touch
we then,
that?
sorry?
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I was
No,
gonna
I was gonna say, like, how
uh,
do we then be able to really like control the frequencies that we emit? If it's coming from the heart, then how do we shut down the brain in order to focus here?
okay, first let me go back to what you said. Uh, so what Kevin is discussing is something Eckhart Tolle talking about, similar situations, two active pain bodies intersecting, which if you don't know what the pain body is, it's like residue from trauma, and if you get enough trauma, you start to think you're the body. You're the wound with a person inside of it instead of a person with the wound, so that wound and then the identity is attracting now because it's running the show. And the other thing is, maybe I didn't create it, but it's, the de-victimizing realization is, "Okay, I didn't create it, but now I have this responsibility." You know what I mean? I have this conditioning and meaning I'm transmitting energy I don't want to, so now need to go and start cleaning areas that are causing it. That's the overhaul. That's why most people don't actually wanna manifest. They like the idea of they think it's using their mind to create something, but it's more physiological. You have to physiologically experience the end state consistently until the field reflects back what you're sending out. That's how you know if it works. So, you must try until, in other
Yeah.
words. That
So,
answer
okay, so if it is like physiological, then how do we separate ourselves from the mental? And why is it that everyone speaks about, you know, the mental side of things, right? Because this is all what we hear.
because it's the false self. The false self thinks that it can put the unmanifested in words. It thinks it can put it in a compartment, but it can't. So, that proves my point. It's the conditioning talking, not the actual part that needs to radiate out. Basically, there has to be some kind of somatic work because
Hmm.
the mind has built up, I don't know what the word is. It's creating XX baggage over time, depending on how old you are, meaning that's what's interfering it. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer you. They're 2 different things. The mind's trying to conceptualize what the body needs to do, and you're asking, "Well, how do I rectify both those, or how do I quantify them?" You have to integrate them. That's why regulation is important. You can't attain the state needed to bring back good results. You know what I mean? Like, uh, you need a calm state, essentially. You
Hmm.
need an uncontaminated state. To me, that's what flow state is. flow state, present, it's all the same thing to me. It's an uncontaminated state. It's like a floaty state because it doesn't have any weight. Essentially, that's what the somatic work's doing. It's taking away density. It's making you more transparent to the light. Uh, I don't approach life anymore as like I need to use techniques. I'm more interested in that state I always had. That's why how I've got here. That I just let whatever happens come back because I know it's gonna good. I just focus on right now feeling good. For other people, yeah, I mean, there's there's a block, essentially, is what Kevin says. Either you're not receptive or you have a block. That's the teachability index that Kevin talks broken down simply. You don't know that you don't know. Well, now I'm telling you. So now you know you don't know. What are you going to do about? There's your victimhood versus responsibility in a question. What are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? Because now you can't say, well, I didn't know. I didn't do it. Well, I didn't do it. Well, when? None of us did. But we're responsible to undo it.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, so you touched on the teachability index, and that I guess can lead us into talking about the very first four principles that Kevin talks about. And these to me, when I was listening to the seminars, I remember for the first like 2 or 3 episodes, I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, is he literally gonna get to the actual secrets? Like, why is he talking about, these four principles? And then I think he said he talked about the teachability index that really brought it home for me, and I was like, oh my god, I'm being so unteachable right now.
Right,
I
right.
am resisting what he's saying. And then I was like, okay, fine, I will open my mind and actually hear what he has to say. And when I did, it made a lot of sense. So I guess the first thing that he talks about is, who do you listen to? Right. And he says that across time and space, I guess, a lot of gurus, quote unquote, has shown up and started sharing secrets and books and teachings around the law of manifestation, the law of attraction, and whatever. But then there are many of them that have either never experienced that law per se, or that are just like studying other people. So he talks about a lot of like autobiographies, for example. A lot of people swear by them, and those are great. But he says that the person that wrote the autobiography doesn't really know what was the state, the inner state of that successful person that they write about. So you can study that, but have discernment of who do you listen to. Similarly, he says something about the like not celebrity books, but rather like successful people's books. Like, like if there is a president that writes a book or someone successful, he says that very often it's a ghostwriter. So same thing, like, who do you listen to? He then talks about something that for me was quite interesting. It was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that book, I remember a dear friend gave it to me like many years ago, and she said that it changed her life. To me, it was very eye opening, but it did not bring home anything. Like, I could not at that time manifest anything from that book because it was missing the secret ingredient that then Kevin talks about. And what he says is that, of course, that when Napoleon Hill wrote that book, he had those people like Carnegie, Ford, that opposed to him revealing all the secrets, because they still wanted people to not have it all. And what would happen then is that some people would like stumble upon the secret, by applying what they received, but by also applying the secret missing ingredient without knowing that they were doing it. But other people, I guess like me at the time when I was trying to apply Think and Grow Rich, I did not get the secret ingredient, like I was I
Can I touch on that? You
yeah,
just
of course.
packed a lot, and yeah, I understand what you're saying. I studied Hill extensively, uh, and people need to know that Think and Grow Rich is the distilled version that they didn't want you. The actual book you want is the law. I think it's the Law of Success in 16 Lessons. It's massive, but he also wrote another book on the school system. called Outwitting the Devil. His family really wouldn't release it until literally after he died. So wow, let me go back because you unpacked a lot. I got to remember where you started. So the problem with the learned, most people aren't receptive, meaning they're closed off. We live in a system where everything's quick and it's like, oh, I got it, and I'm good to go. And it's like, no, no, you're not okay. You never say I got it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's flux. Consciousness is in flux. So it's mutating. You know what I mean? So as soon as you say you got it, learning stops. And it's kind of a cultural problem. Uh as far as Napoleon, a lot of my whole entire what I'm teaching you is based off of him, but it's not off of Think and Grow Rich. I always dig for the deepest stuff I can find on the author, and he's the one that gave me the sending and receiving set. Man is a sending and receiving set for the vibration of thought. Now, I'm coming from the heart center, but at that time, he may have not known that. That's come just in, you know what I mean, in the last whatever, I don't even know, since the 90s. So he didn't have that information. Uh, there's another thing that he talks about. It's called cosmic habit force. It's basically if you don't consciously give your mind something constructive, it'll by default feed on the environment. And again, you can see this in everything
Mm,
going on. And the last thing I'll give you from him that helped me is creative vision and synthetic vision. Most things created are just taking two formally creative things and blending them. Creative vision is something that's never been created. It's a hunt.
mm,
That's how I create. That's manifesting to me. I know music theory, but I don't write like a academic. I don't write that. I get hunches. I get into a state and it comes to me and it's always better. Same thing with thinking. Like I learned to write from reading books and writing lyrics and bars, like rap bars. You have to compact a lot. That's why I'm good at writing notes because it's the same thing. I can unpack a lot in a few words that people can take. So then, yeah, man, like he's talking about things, but we're talking language that's 100 years old, and you couldn't step out into the open like we're talking now. He had to figure out a way around, you know what I mean, the languaging, and he's giving it to you. Enthusiasm that is raising your state enough. The other book I'll add, and then I'll fall back and let you question. See, I took the problem with the gurus is they're taking personal development but not adding any spirituality. I'm taking frameworks not designed for spirituality and stepping over the fence and going into spirituality and applying them. And now they seem to like uh, anybody who reads Tony Robbins, like his first book, by all accounts, is a manifesting book, but it's not called that. Your state of being in mind runs the show. So you get that
mm.
right. Learn how to do that. That's kind of the direction I'm going to teach people. Get that right. And then the manifesting is a byproduct. It's the same thing that I teach. You're taking away the interference from the signal going out. If you don't like what's coming out, well, there's a problem with the signal. The signal's corrupted.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because what has been happening is that we have been spiritualizing it a lot. And so what people think that manifestation is to literally just go and meditate your way into it and just like visualize your way into it or like force whatever like 5D state into it and stay there and not actually take action in the real world. And
Right.
that's not possible. That's
That's
not
the
okay.
that's the interference though. That's what's blocking the state. Your mind has to be out of the way to access the state. That's why like somebody, an artist or a musician, that state is gone when they're in flow. you can't access flow from those state. I didn't mean to stop you, but uh, you touched on the very point blocking them is the thinking. Oh, we got to
Oh,
free up.
yeah, I lost.
It's
Yeah, so I guess tell me about it because you touched on something important, right? The flow state. And a lot of people talk about this, but I don't think that a lot of people understand it because what I have seen in the past 3 years of running a holistic well-being marketplace and like engaging with so many holistic practitioners and so many different spiritual communities is that a lot of spiritual people, and I say this with a lot of love and no judgment, have zero agency. Like they basically will say something like, I'm flowing with the universe and I'm just letting the universe decide. And they consider this as flow, which is not taking any decisions on their actual lives or like, not taking any action. Whereas the flow that you're talking about is actually coming from action. And Kevin touches on that as well. I remember, and I was actually re-listening for the 100th time of one of the episodes before our session now, and he was talking about like when you get that sweet spot, and we will talk about that because that's one of the secrets. um and you are kind of like, it's not about you not doing anything, it's about you like working hard towards that you wish to manifest, but it does not seem like working hard because you are in flow with it,
right.
right? So, and that's what you are talking about here. So
Yeah.
I would love for you to unpack it.
Okay, I'll do my best. Off the top of my head, I have notes, but I don't want to scroll. Uh, refresh me again the last part, just so I
So
can.
it's really about how to access, well, the
Oh,
difference I would say between the lack of agency and really like being in flow state through action. And also like not mistaking flow for letting the universe decide for you or just like taking inspired action, which a lot of people say it's just meditating or going for coffee or whatever. Whereas it's no, it's aligning with working towards what
well,
that
let,
you wish to manifest, basically.
let me clarify what I think flow state is. Okay, it, you you have to key up the flow state. Okay, when you listen to music, that's what you're doing. You're keying up, depending what you're listening to. Now, some people listen to sad music that's keying down. You have to be wise, like you said, you have to have agency. You got to work on what's your ritual to get in state. Everybody's different, so I can tell you what mine is. I have many of them. Whatever medium I'm doing. If I'm writing, I start reading and listening. Music's another one, and then once I'm up there, then I start doing whatever I'm creating, or I condition it in. You can use things to condition it in so you can access the state later. And also, if you have multiple creativities, you can do what I call pivoting. That means before you run out of creative energy, you pivot to something different. Now you go back up in that state. So you're kind of staying in that state as long as you can. That's kind of what I learned to do. But it takes a while. I'm trying to make it faster for people. And most people, they don't understand that. Again, we're back to the same thing. The mind thinks it can conceptualize something in the body. Uh, Neville's another one to study. You have what's the word? You have to it has to come from the end. You have to live in the end state. So all these things I've been studying, I studied each one individually, and they didn't make sense. Like I had to go around for years for this shit to make sense to me. You know what I mean? So I work on getting into the flow state by keying up. That's the fastest way. Or can you remember a time when you were inspired? Completely on top of, you know what I mean? Like creativity. That's how you do it. Forcing yourself to create never works. That's like the opposite. That's
Yeah,
repellent.
yeah,
Did
yeah.
I did I touch on everything? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, yeah. I think that you touched on on a lot of things that are quite interesting. Which is, well, the first one is like you cannot force it, and my question was actually going to be, how do you enter flow state if you are not in it? And this is something that I've actually learned from Kevin when he talks about it, and I'm still building that bridge, which is, I think, the four steps of processing new information, right? Or like making it like conscious competence, I think, or unconscious competence. That's what he talks about. But basically, it's about taking this new concept and making it automatic. But
Habit.
what I have discovered, sorry,
It's my mechanism of change. It's the same thing. It's taking the state, anchoring the state in, and then continuing to do it until it's permanent.
yeah, exactly. And what he talks about during the seminars is basically the flow state or the state that you need to be in manifestation for your manifestation to work, and that's one of the secrets, is to feel good. But people don't tell you what feeling good means. Like when you hear all these gurus talking about, well, you manifest when you're in high vibration, you need to keep your frequency high, you need to do this. Kevin actually explains it. And what he says is that basically, like, you just need to monitor your feelings. How are you feeling in regards to something? Are you feeling good or bad?
Right.
That's all. If you are feeling bad, that means there is like the signal is
The
not
block.
transmitting properly,
The block.
and you need to recalibrate, right?
Mhm. That's yeah. It's basically either Abraham Hicks has a book that talks about this. They give you a scale that goes up, your emotional scale, and your emotions tell you right where you are. If you're in if you're in despair, you can't quantum leap up to joy. You got to go up, whatever the next one, I don't know what it would be, anger or something like that. And you go up. But it lets you know, okay, there's a problem. I need to start looking for the block. That and Kevin gave me EFT. That's how I
Yeah.
started that. So then I started to be like, okay, this is how you get rid of the block. To access the state, are you in your body? That's first. Get out of your head. Are you in your body?
Mm,
Are you deep breathing? Because you're not going to access those deeper states. Respiration needs to be deeper. You can't be nasally and shallow. It needs to be diaphragm. The whole thing. So those two should help. If there's he's right about monitoring your thoughts, and I have a practice for that. It's called the 1 hour sit. I devised this years ago. That's how I kind of started meditation. Had a really stressful job where I worked all the time. So when came home, I just started sitting in an empty room with no stimulation, no distraction, and it kind of helped. But for most people these days, they're not going to be able to do it. But that's the point. Sit the whole hour and capture. Don't try to do anything. Just write it down. Write it down or record it into your a phone app, voice app. And then later you can go back. There's your aspects. There's your blocks. Whatever's telling you you shouldn't do this. Why does this take so long? I shouldn't have to do this. That's the conditioning. Our culture is conditioned to download things. This work ain't a quick download. This ain't a quick pill fix. That's shadow work. Shadow work, you're literally healing your emotional wound. Nothing could be darker. But that's the work. Life gets better. You don't hurt as much. I used to carry hurt around in me for years, and I didn't like it, but I didn't know how to get rid of it. So finding EFT, it helped. I'm not perfect. It's not perfect. I don't know that the world the way it is or life is designed to be 100% flawless. That's why I say perfection is in the flaws. It's all the
yeah.
little stuff of me that makes me me, and it makes you you. If we're all the same, then we're just clones, robots.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that Kevin talks about this flow state, or rather like accessing this good feeling. He says like very simple things like music, right? Like he says, listen to your favorite music; it will put you back in flow.
Right.
He talks about vibration plates. He talks about EFT, obviously, which is a very powerful tool, and I've been using your protocol, and it's been life changing.
Thank
Um, but then he talks about, things like nutrition, eat good food, like literally. And when he goes through the list of things that can put you back in a good state, in a good feeling mood, it does make sense. And when you try those things, it does work. And it's so simple when he talks about it. It's like when you hear other people talk about manifestation, as I said, they say things like, be in a high frequency, be in a high vibration. What he says is like, listen to your feelings. You need to learn to catch yourself when you are feeling bad about something. And
Right.
that tells you that you are in a situation or that you are thinking about something that is not aligned with your manifestation. And I guess now is a good time perhaps to share the actual like secret, because I want to build up the conversation from here, which he presents it this way. The main reason why manifestations fail in general, it's because you are outside of, I called it the giggly zone. You are outside of your good feeling zone. So a lot of authors will tell you, manifest big, you have to go all out. And so you're here thinking, oh my God, like I'm just going to manifest $10 million and I want it by the end of the year, and they tell you you have to put a timestamp on it, you have to like make it big, you have to write it every day. And he says this is bullshit. And I actually agree with him, because he explains it like what happens is that this adds pressure to
Mm.
you, and it makes you feel bad for not having it. You are basically stressing yourself by putting this unrealistic like goal out there, adding time pressure on it, and having your nervous system contract at it. So instead of doing that, what you want to do is build up stepping stones. So
Right.
if you want to manifest $10 million as the ultimate goal, think about, okay, where am I right now? What would be a sum of money that would feel good for me to manifest, and play along with the internal feelings? If when you say the sum of money, let's say you have this kind of like nagging feeling inside of you, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So you have to arrive at the sweet spot. He calls it the sweet spot. I call it like this giggly feeling, because you literally feel super giggly inside. You're like, yes, this is it. It needs to make you excited. It needs to make you aspiring to something, but it needs to be real for your brain, for yourself to actually believe in. And that's the thing. It's not forcing yourself to believe in this unrealistic goal. It's to find the current realistic goal, step into it, and then go into the next one and expand your field whenever you manifest the next thing that you want to manifest. And that's actually the secret, because a lot of people will not tell you this. They will just go all in, go big. And he says also something, and then I would love to hear your thoughts around that as well. He says
Let
that
me let me
basically,
let me
you don't necessarily.
can we wait for this part? Because I want to unpack what you just said. Because you just
Okay, okay, okay.
uh,
Go ahead.
I think most people are one, they don't know how to do what they're telling. They tell us how, but they tell us what, but not how. That's usually the problem. Uh, they want to drip it behind a paywall. It's one of the things I don't like. Most people are conditioned the opposite of the state they need. So either the thinking's reinforcing the very condition they don't need, uh, or they don't know how to attain the state or maintain it, so to speak. I'm trying to think what you were mentioning about Kevin, what Kevin said as far as that. Say it again. You gave me so much, it's very hard for me to try to
Yeah.
remember everything.
So he says that basically you need to find a sweet spot instead of manifesting, trying to manifest this huge goal bound in time. Find
Most
something
people
that makes you feel good.
Most people, yeah, they're getting gassed up by shiny object syndrome when they see the Lambo, but they don't understand their conditionings for the '73 Pinto, and until they deal with that foundation, nothing's changing. That's kind of the problem with the culture. Everybody's thinking they could just override it with your mind. That's not how it works. You're skipping the most important component with is the somatic. So that would be my answer. One, they're not receptive. Two, they don't know how to do what they're being told, which is vibe higher, bro. That doesn't help me, man. Like how? Kevin is giving you away. That's kind of what I'm moving to teach is that state is everything. So this is how you have to focus on it like an experiment. When you're up in that state, start thinking, how did I get here? What did I just do for the last hour, 2 hours? What did I do all day? Oh, I was with all my friends and we went and did X. And now I'm just floating on a high because that's what it feels like. It's like a high. You know what I mean? I get in a flow state and create something. That's what I get high off. I just get high off creating high quality stuff that I would want that's not being created.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really like about identifying then that feeling that the sweet spot is giving you, right? And then as you said, identifying how did you get there and just maintaining that, regardless of what is it that you are doing. He talks a lot about the training balance scale, which is basically what you put out there through your mind versus the actions that you take. And he says that what you do don't matter if your internal state is not aligned with that sweet spot that we just talked about, right? It's like you have to feel good about whatever it is that you want to manifest and then take action towards that. So if you are trying to manifest something outside of, you put it really nicely, the somatic, what your body allows you to manifest, you will never get it. You will never get it. You will not override it just like that. So you need to be in that sweet spot that makes you feel good and then sustain that good feeling by obsessing over that. Right? It's like, what do I want to manifest? A porch. So I'm just going to like
But it's
obsess over that.
it, the word that we're looking for is natural motivation. It's when we're talking, this is the analogy that I use is that it's like a sporting event. Manifesting is moving the ball down the field by scrimmage. There's no offense or defense because you don't care about that. You're just worried about the enjoyment of the game. It's like the Pro Bowl. We do it, but it doesn't mean it. You know what I'm saying? When you start worrying about those things, that's what's blocking it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sweet spot, how do you get to maintain it? Every person's different, but they gotta be motivated. Most people study doing but not being. An ounce of being is worth a ton of doing. 1 hour of being is not equal to 1 hour of doing. They've done flow state studies. An hour of flow is like equal to like 4 hours of doing or 8 hours of doing. So you see where I'm going with. But
Yeah.
most people aren't comfortable to sit an hour. That's the first thing. You got to get comfortable with the state. Our whole way of life is being anxious. I'm uncomfortable being by myself because I don't like what my inner dialogue starts throwing at me. I'm uncomfortable. My state's uncomfortable. So I need to go distracted. I need to
Mm.
overstimulate. That's the other thing too. Most people are overstimulated. They don't have any capacity to fill up. The vessel's full with stuff blocking manifestations. That's what the overhaul does. It gets rid of that vessel so that, remember what I said? Most people are standing in the very space their manifestation needs to fill because they don't go do something else. That's why I have multiple creative things. So I finish one and I don't think about it. I go move on to the next thing. Then when I came back later, nature has done it
Mhm.
right? Instead of my mind thinks I'm bigger than conscious, I can manipulate consciousness. Okay, yeah, right.
So that's but that makes a lot of sense because what happens is that we are in an overstimulated society and we by essence just want to fill in the space through action, so we end up like doing way too much,
Right.
not
Trying too
feeling
hard.
enough, not
Trying
being in the feeling. Sorry.
trying too hard. That's what I call
Yeah,
it.
trying too hard, exactly. And then not being in the feeling that will allow us to manifest what we are trying to manifest. And he says this story about one of his friends who was having this lawsuit, I think, and he decided to go and take a holiday. And then everyone around him was like, "What the fuck? You're crazy. Like, you're being sued. Like, why are you going on holidays? Like, you should stay and work and this." And he was like, "No, don't worry. It will take care of itself." And a few days later, it was like he got a call from his lawyers and it was taken care like of itself.
Right.
Why? Because he chose the feeling of feeling good towards the resolution of that low case. He knew that by staying at work, he would just reinforce that anxiety and that stress and that feeling bad, and that would not serve his manifestation.
Let's unpack that. So,
Yeah.
we're talking about transmitting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's smart. He knows what's going on. He knows if I stay here and fester in the problem, I'm charging the transmitter. So that problem's getting stronger. It's getting more energy and coming back stronger rather than, okay, I can't do anything right now. It's the same approach with go away and think about something else. Let nature do whatever it's going to do. Let's not give it solidity by thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of times problems aren't problems, but we label them that way so they become problems. But yeah, uh,
Yeah.
I forgot about that story. The other story that I liked that Kevin talked was his agent kept wanting him to sell the house, and he didn't want to do it because it didn't feel lined up, and that's something else society doesn't like to do. It doesn't want to. It talks about intuition, but doesn't follow it. It wants to fight it. When we say surrender, most people think submit. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you're quitting. It means you're no longer opposing the flow of nature, of life.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's where the delusion comes. You think you can outsmart nature and tell nature what its just, definition is. That's not, yeah, good luck. Let us
Yeah.
know how it works. But uh that's to me, that's where the disconnect. The gurus they won't give you the finer distinctions. They don't tell you how. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of fluff with very few usable things, basically.
Yeah. And so that brings me to talk, you touched on it, and this is what he says, right? So the first really secret that you guys listening and watching need to know from this is that you need to find your sweet spot, right? Like you start with manifesting something that makes you feel good. You don't go for the big unrealistic goal that everyone tells you to have, and you don't put it in a like time limit. You don't put a deadline to it. I know it's completely against everything, but putting a deadline will add pressure and you don't want that. So you want to find a goal that is in your sweet spot, something that makes you feel genuinely good. If you feel bad about it, reassess the goal until you find something that makes you feel good that is within that realm. He also says that it doesn't have to be something specific. You can say, I want a house that makes me feel like that makes me feel good. I want a sum of money that makes me feel good. I want a car that makes me feel good. It doesn't have to be a very specific one and like all described. And then from here he talks about what you touched on, which is the intuition, right? And he says, I forgot the exact words that he used, but he says something about like what you are manifesting, the way it will come to you is not in your field of vision. You will not know how it will come to you. Like you cannot see it in your rear mirror. You have to trust your intuition with this. You have to trust your feelings with this. And your feelings will give you a resolution or a way for it to manifest. And he says this story, which I really love. And it's a story about himself. He says that he lived it. But it's about this guy who wanted to manifest this very specific car, but he did not have enough money to buy the car. But
Right.
he found the sweet spot. He started emitting the signal, which is simply obsessing over the car, like thinking about it over and over again and growing that good feeling that thought brings you, right? So he was doing that. He started seeing, ads for insurances, or I think like credit for to get cars at like a lower interest rate. And then he started seeing that car everywhere. And then like it was like his reality was rearranging. And then one day he was going back home and he found this briefcase by a tree, and he takes it, and there was attached to the briefcase a card with a name and a phone number. He calls the phone number. This guy comes in, picks up the briefcase, and he says, "Oh my God, thank you so much. You found my briefcase. You don't know how valuable this is. You did not even open it. Thank you. I want to reward you. I really want to say thank you." And he goes like, "No, no, don't worry." And he goes like, "No, please allow me." And he gives him a check for $50,000. And that was the exact amount he needed to get his dream car. And he goes on and he buys his car. And everyone is like, "How did that happen? You don't have any money." And he goes like, "You wouldn't know the craziest story
Right,
that
right,
happened."
right. Right.
Right?
Reality's crazier than fiction. I think that you touched on the more important part to me, which is learn how to feel good first. Like that would be the primer, and then your manifesting will go a lot better. You'll enjoy it more. Uh, Look for activities and creative outputs you already have, stuff you would do if you weren't getting paid for it that make you feel good. Those are the real activities to me. You know what I'm saying? Like creating things that don't revolve around money. You create them. You know, I could have pursued music, but I don't want to because I don't want it to be work. I want it to be a creative act. It kind of spoils it. So the sweet spot is, yeah, everybody's got a different one, but make a list. What are things that you like to do? Actively make a big list of things that you could do to make you feel good. Stop worrying about the end result. That's the other thing is it'll come, like you said, it'll come when it's supposed to come. You don't get to decide. All you can do is send out the best energy and the equivalent will come back. There's a book that too called The Mental Equivalent. Whatever you send back is what it'll give you or better. Uh by not making specifics. Yeah, there's a ton of, like, manifesting stories like that where, uh, Neville talks about that, like, a lady wanted a designer hat, and she wound up similar story, finding money or something like that, or something the hat got stolen, so they gave her a hat, and the hat they gave her was the exact one she was visualizing, like, you you have no way, understanding of the ways of the universe, so what might look like a loss is actually a win, you know what I mean? Sometimes you focus on the one thing that's not going well and chalk it up as a loss, which you gotta stay balanced. Staying balanced is part of it too. But you said food, yeah, that's why it's an overhaul. You're not really transmitting at full capacity unless you're willing to go in every area of your life and see what if there's a block, there could be a block. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
technically there's gonna be unless you're r raised somewhere separate from society, you're gonna have trauma, but it's part of the human dynamic, the experience.
Yeah. And your feelings will show you where you have blocks that you need to get rid of to land your manifestation. And so like to really like kind of like give a very clear, I'm very mindful of how we transmit the message because I really want the people watching to understand how they can apply this very easily. You need to find your sweet spot manifestation. What is it that you are calling in that makes you feel good? If you want to manifest a house and say, like, your dream house is a penthouse, but whenever you think about the penthouse, you feel anxious, that's not what you should be transmitting out there.
That's
Maybe you can just say a
that
house.
that's the block, and they should write it down. Alright,
Yeah.
when I mentioned house, it makes me feel anxious. Probably be it was what I said, your foundation is you your set point, your financial and emotional set point hasn't been expanded to handle that. That's why celebrities, they become wealthy and they can't handle it. It's too much because they don't have the emotional capacity to deal with the problems that come along. Yeah, you got that mansion, but there's taxes, the upkeep. If something breaks, how you gonna pay for it? You know what I mean? You don't think about that now, but once it's coming closer, a lot of people get freaked out, and that's why they self-sabotage, or one of the reasons they
Yeah.
self-sabotage.
Yeah, absolutely. So instead of saying mansion or penthouse, you should say house that makes me feel good.
Right.
right? And trust that you will receive that as long as that statement makes you feel good. So you have to monitor your feelings and then you land on something that makes you feel good. So if house that makes you me feel good is the thing, then what you need to do next is to completely obsess over that. Think
Right.
about it 24/7. I want a house that makes me feel good. I want a house that makes me feel good. And that's it. And stay in the feeling that makes you feel good, that receiving that house makes you feel, right?
I
And
I
continuously transmit through that.
I agree. I was just gonna add to it. You asked me for steps. What I would do is I would get, like, videos. I would either now I'd probably create videos because you can have AI do it, but make it like a virtual like a real estate company would have. So you're zooming in every room with all the details. That's what you should be running in your mind. You should be
Yeah.
bringing it in close and making it big and bright. And you this is the step that people miss here. This is the other word, is associated versus disassociated.
Mhm.
Most people are disassociated from their body and emotions and trying to manifest. The few that are associated are the ones that manifest. Or you're still manifesting, but now you're manifesting more disassociated results, which you
Yeah.
don't, 'cause you're just creating more of what you don't want. So until you deal with you, you're not actually creating what you want. You're right. I'm just touching on things that are gonna be the problem. They should
Mhm.
all monitor how much of your day is feeling good and feeling bad. Like,
Yeah.
something else like spiritual bypassing that I mentioned, you if you meditate for 1 hour and then the other 23, you go back in the same environment that created what you're trying to meditate, you can't win. Whatever you're immersed in the most is what's setting your state. So that's important to remember. Whatever environment or stimulus consistently is creating your state.
Mm. So let's get practical here because this is an important point. And I think that a lot of people can be in environments that they are trying to manifest their way out of. So, how can they sustain that like good feeling that we talked about, whereas they are living in those environments that they are trying to get out of? Like, I would love for us to touch on this because I feel like it might be very practical for some people watching.
Okay, so, uh, first 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 is belief and hope, because a lot of times that's hijacked, and when that's hijacked, you can't reach they're basically at that first step on Kevin's scale. They're unconscious, incompetence, and they're
Yeah.
not interested in doing any, or they haven't been we've they can't find any hope, so that's what me and you are trying to do. So, belief and hope that they can do something while they're in it, okay? So, next, they gotta be regulated. If you're in an anxious environment and you're anxious, you're never gonna manifest your way out of it. So, you gotta start working on that. You gotta get your baseline feeling to where you are okay where you're at, but you're motivated, inspired. To me, motivated needs inspired. Otherwise, it's pushing, and you don't wanna push when you're manifesting. So you believe, you got hope, you're building regulation. Now you start taking initiative. What does that mean? Well, how can ask more empowering questions? You know what I mean? What's good about this? What can I appreciate about this situation? How can I work on, I don't know what the word is, climbing out of it for lack of a better word? You know, how can I be proactive? And then you have to stay conditioned to that. You might have to recondition that every day, like a vow to yourself. Every day is a new day. But the environments, if you don't, that's kind of what I meant earlier. If you don't consciously choose to take control of your conditioning, the environment will do it for you. And you won't
Mhm.
let the results. The ROI sucks, man. When you do it yourself, that's front end loading versus back end. If you do the work up front, the back end will take care of itself. Otherwise, you're going to be fixing and fighting fires on the back end, which is what you don't want, which is how most of us are living now, unfortunately. I
Yeah.
did that
A-
did that
a- And I will add to that that a lot of people think when they are in situations like this, right? You said something important, which is it got to start with a beam of belief. Like it doesn't have to be a firm belief, but it can be like a question: how can I get out of here? Like it can literally start with this, but you need to have that spark,
Right.
because I guess we talked about this before we started the live, but there are a lot of people that are spiritually bypassing, but also staying in that victim mentality of, I want to get out of here, but I don't believe I can, so I'm not going to do anything to get out of here,
Right.
right? And
Trapped.
if you are there, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but you won't get out of there.
Right.
And it really needs to start with seeing it. You have to see yourself in that stuck situation. See yourself as, oh my God, I am in this situation. I am stuck, but I'm also not believing that I will get out of here. And this is what is even more keeping me stuck. And then you got to want it. So it's like, okay, well, now I want to get out of here. So perhaps let me ask, how can I get out of here? And if you apply the technique that we just talked about, that Kevin Trudeau gives, like the secret, which is the sweet spot in that specific situation, is, well, now I want to manifest. I don't know. Let's keep the example of home. Like, I want to manifest a new home, for example, or like a space for myself. Well, maybe like getting very specific with that will not work. It will make you feel anxious. So maybe you can say, I just want to manifest a space that makes me feel good. And that makes you hopeful. You believe that you can do that. You start to believe in it. And then some people here might think, but how? Like, I don't know. There is no way for me to get out of this situation. And I've personally had so many conversations with so many people that would tell me, there is no way for me to get out of here. I need this and I need that. I need money and I need exposure and I need this and I need da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, you are literally finding a problem for every solution right now. You need to like go back, and your role is not to figure out the how. Your role is to find the belief, find the sweet spot, and then let the how show itself up to you. And I guess the problem here is that a lot of people drop out because they don't believe that there is a how.
Right.
So, is there any way around that, really?
Well, they're getting in the way. Like I said before, plant, harvest, germinate. People don't really like to wait too long. Well, one, you gotta look for examples. You gotta look for other people. If you truly want out, that's kinda what I'm demonstrating. I come from the bottom class. I'm basically the invisible class that most people don't even know about. And I'm saying that's one of the reasons I'm doing this. That's why my channel's free so that, people can't say that there aren't resources, there aren't tools. So it's an accountability thing. Okay, if you want out, then you need to get committed. That's first. Because if you don't have that, it's like you saying, you want it, but you don't really it's interested versus committed. I want it as long as I don't have to do anything. Well, it's not gonna work then. If once you start playing away around embodying higher states, you'll be motivated because that's a byproduct of those states. There's no crash at all in those states. Uh, Follow other people. That's what autobiographies are actually for. Go find somebody who has it's way rougher than you. You know what I'm saying? That's what kept me going. From where I'm from, I listen to music from people who had it way worse than me. So on my worst day, I listen to the music and I'm like, all right, I can't be complaining. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I'm not the only one. Everybody's going through this. So if they can suck it up, I can suck it up. So that
Mhm.
immediately keeps my baseline at a standard. Next day, I might need something different to do that. Every day I do that. So I'm no different. But uh, the difference is I don't like the alternative. The alternative sucks.
Mm.
Living a life that you're getting everything you don't want with low energy and low morale. Nah, I'm good. No thanks. Uh, I it really starts with you. You need to what you said people, "Well, I can't do it. I have this. I can't do this, this, and this." Well, those are tail enders. Those are the blocks, and those are on the material plane. What we're talking about, there's your problem with the gurus and the people who don't really understand this. They're still on the surface level, and this is physiological. This is energetic. So It's the same reason we can't win the war against everything going on. It has to be one when they say this is the spiritual war, well, that means energy. It means frequency. Get your energy right and the rest will follow suit. People want to use it just, all right, I just want this and I want to go back to doing whatever I want. That you're not getting it then because then you're going back to beaming out the energy you always had. If there's no overhaul, there's no change in the energy going out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess like the very first point or starting point here would be simply to ask yourself the question, why am I stuck here? Like, why are things not changing? And I think that this is very stupidly simple, but a lot of people don't do it. They don't question. They don't really sit down and actually question. Not like, oh my God, I'm so annoyed that I'm stuck here. No, turn it into a question. Why am I feeling stuck right now? And this is where and I'm going to go in a little bit of a tangent, but not really because Kevin talks about EFT in his seminars. He says that EFT is one of the most powerful tools that you can use when you are manifesting. Because when you are not feeling good about something, and I will go on something you said, which is look for examples. But sometimes those examples can trigger jealousy, envy, like, anger, frustration. When you look at examples of people that made it, you can either feel really good about it or you can feel really bad
And
about it. And
envy.
both are good for you because when you're feeling bad, you are triggered, and triggered triggers are thresholds. You are basically seeing your old identity, feeling triggered. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can choose whether you want to choose differently or you can reinforce that identity by staying in that feeling bad loop. But what Kevin says and what we both say, and I guess like what we kind of like lived through, is that you can use certain tools, and one of them is EFT. So when you identify that feeling of jealousy, of anger, of frustration, you can stop, write it down, like really understand it. What is it that I'm feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? And then from there, you can use EFT. And for me, I followed your protocol. I tried. Some people watching this might be familiar with EFT because you might see it on YouTube and maybe you had like private sessions and things like that. But from my personal experience, the EFTs on YouTube are not that great
Or
because
generic.
they give you a starting point, but they're not personalized to you. Like you can use them, it will still help, but it's not going to help as much as a personalized protocol. So I would love for you, and again, the one that I've been using is yours. And I've been loving it because I have felt a tremendous shift and a tremendous, like, of course, I've been doing a lot of inner work myself and I'm very conscious and aware. So that's something very important for people watching. You need to be self aware and start there. But the protocol that I got from you, then I ran through ChatGPT and started making my own, was extremely powerful because it was targeting the exact negative feelings that were arising at different situations, and I have seen incredible shifts straight away. So please talk to us about this.
Well, first you were talking about, people, they should assess where they are most of the time. Are they positive most of the time and they have events like it's a visit, or are they living in anxiety? That's first because 'cause that'll tell you how deep it is. It also let you know. And the next thing is when you're feeling negative or you have internal dialogue, is rerouting the question. And something you mentioned earlier, I'm feeling bad, so I need to adjust. They call it flip switching. So it's real time correction. Okay, right now I'm feeling shitty. So I'm focusing on all this disempowering stuff. So you start flipping the script. You start asking empowering questions. What could I feel good with right now if I wanted to? Or what could I focus on that I'm appreciative of? 'Cause appreciation is one of the highest states. It's better than gratitude. 'Cause gratitude, you need something to feel good about, whereas appreciation, you just feel good because 'cause you're alive, the joy of being. As far as tapping, I split tapping into 2 things, regulation tapping and traumatic and event tapping. So, what I teach is what I've had you do. Preferably tap for an hour a day, preferably 2, an hour in the morning and an hour at night. You don't have to focus on anything specific. You're just sending that calming signal to your amygdala through tapping, which sends a calming signal. It's also at the same time breaking down neural mapping, whatever this charge is. So it's pruning synapses. That's one. Then you have specific events. All right, I got jumped on my way home from high school. That's going to create a significant imprint. You're literally that trauma has imprinted that event and no stimulus at that time. So that event has never actually gone away. You're still carrying that trauma and it's impacting everything you do after. I use an extreme case because it's much easier for people to understand. So one creates the baseline and the other one deals with individual events. So for me, how I learned, and then I'm going to segue into what you said. Yeah, regular EFT didn't work for me. It's too generic. Every, that's my problem. That was my problem. Everything I needed was behind a paywall. I couldn't afford a practitioner because it was like $200-300 an hour, and you're going to need multiple sessions. And I'm like, wow, that's just insane. So getting certified was actually cheaper. So that's what I did. But there's a lot of weaknesses and flaws. Like the way they do it, it takes a long time, and I don't want it to take a long time. Like, so I started adding other modalities like NLP and uh, Milton Erickson techniques to try to get around the trauma or under the condition. Because, like I told you, I spend most of the time dealing with the conditioning as instead of the actual pain, which is what I'm trying to get to. So I feel like the more self responsible I want to empower people to heal themselves, and then they don't need me. They can go off in their life and give that to someone else and pay it forward. That's how we change. Not keeping you dependent on me. Like that's not helping. Uh, so one, you you wanted me to talk on tapping. I mean, there's so much I could go into tapping. Tapping just gets rid of the static. It clears the vessel so you can actually fill it up with the energy that you need to fill it. The tapping can become the state trigger to get into flow. Because you tap long enough, it starts to make you feel calm. So as soon as you start doing it, like I don't half the time I don't even need to really tap very long because it's so conditioned into my body.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
it's a very, very powerful tool. Well, like to be honest, to reassure you, I had tried tapping with an actual practitioner like a few years ago, EFT. It did nothing. Like I did not I okay, I wouldn't say like it did nothing, but it was not as like transformative as now. I think that for two factors. I think that at the time I was not as self-aware or
right.
as self-conscious as I am right now, and I was not able to really like accept. I think it was the teachability index, right? It's like what Kevin talks about. You have to be open to everything. Like you cannot say, "Oh, I know about things," right? Like you have to be open to learn about everything and experience and accept things for true, like when it makes sense with discernment, right? Like when we talk about these things, right? But when I had tried EFT at that time, I don't think that I had that teachability index. I was like, yeah, I know this stuff. Like it's fine. Like like I was working with a practitioner, but part of me was like, yeah, no, I know these things. Like I can work with affirmations. Whereas it's not affirmations at all. And I guess that there was also a lack of education from me in terms of what is exactly EFT. And the practitioner did not do did not really explain to me in depth, right? And so I think that there are a lot of components when we are using these tools. It's very important to approach them with a lot of like awareness and a lot of curiosity. I will say, I was gonna say like consciousness, but curiosity is a better word. It's like you have to be teachable. You have to be open to learn about these tools. And then of course that there are certain tools that will work for you and others that will not work for you. But you have to really approach them with curiosity. I was like, why is this tool not working for me? Like, is there something that I am doing wrong here? And to give you a very concrete example, which goes along manifestation, For me, it has always been visualization. Whenever I would visualize something, the opposite thing would happen in real life, and I would be like, what the fuck? Like, I just was trying to visualize this great thing, and then this catastrophe just happened, and I never took the time to be curious about it and ask why. I just said, this is not for me. I don't like it. This doesn't work. Right? Again, teachability index. I was not teachable at that point. But then when listening to Kevin Trudeau's seminars, I actually understood it's because what I was visualizing was bringing up all this anxiety in me. I was not in my sweet spot. I was visualizing things that made me feel anxious, and so my nervous system overrid that whatever I was trying to visualize, and then created these self-sabotage situations in my everyday reality that just, made me confirm that I could not manifest that thing, which is that loop that we are stuck in if we are not in the sweet spot. So I guess I don't really know where I was going with this,
I
but
do.
coming,
I do. I do. Let
yeah.
me, uh, you had talked about these lower states.
Mm,
That's the thing. Like, as you go up in states to higher states, more of your awareness is opening. So, like, when you're that's how I like to visualize it because it makes it make sense, like a graph. So if I'm angry, I got tunnel vision. All these opportunities out here are blocked off for me simply because I know it all. That's the easier way to say it. By ignoring the teachability index and then wonder why the manifesting doesn't work. The other thing with EFT is it takes a little while to build rapport. I like to do an intake. I like to do a couple to meet with the person because it's very hard. I have to be multiple things to the person at once. I have to be friendly, but I also have to be the person that helps them. I need to take them somewhere that they might not want to go. So yeah, that a lot of times it depends on that. And the other thing is you must be associated in the body. EFT and manifesting are the same way. They only work when they're done from a feeling state. So if you're detached from your emotions in your body, all that's happening in the world ain't gonna do nothing. It's not a you're not tapping, it's
mm,
breaking down that, but it's basically giving you the memory with no bad feeling. Yeah, I call it emotional amnesia. I remember the event, but it doesn't make me feel bad. I don't understand. It's a terrible event, but I no longer feel bad. That's what EFT does.
yeah.
That's one of
Eh,
the things it does. It does a lot of other things too, but, yeah, the range I'll say one more thing on EFT, why it doesn't work, and then I'll fall back. I had the same experience. I took a few courses, worked with, uh, a few things with it, and it's not specific enough. That's the first thing, and even the courses I took were minimal. They weren't what you need. I need to know what's going on, and if you there's techniques, and I updated all my techniques in the newsletters. They have bigger,
mm,
real big fonts so you can understand them. There's techniques depending where you're at on the scale. So if you're super agitated, we need to be around the perimeter of the trauma. But if you're regulated, we can kinda go in and deal right with the problem. So we wanna go in there and take away that electrical charge from whatever's blocking you. It doesn't always have to be trauma, it might be fear.
yeah.
I'm afraid of success. All right, now it's coming at me. Like what you're saying, "Oh shit, I'm getting a mansion. I don't even know what to do. I'm walking around in 50 rooms. I can't believe," you know what I mean? Like the surrealism sometimes will cause you to sabotage because that means you need regulation because you're not acclimated to your set point. You're raising your set point. Your physiology needs to also be conditioned to be able to handle it.
Yeah, because what happens otherwise is that you can manifest through force. And I guess this is actually an interesting one that we can touch on, which is why is it that some people that have no idea about manifestation, law of attraction, and all of that are able to manifest? And Kevin touches on that in the seminars, and he says that very often they are tapped into the same method that the books teaches, but they're unconscious about it. They just do it naturally. So they are emitting this frequency that is in their sweet spot. They are obsessive about it, and they are just like working at it without feeling like they're working hard at it. But then there are certain instances where you could manifest through force. Like you can, work extremely hard. Like we see this with some very successful founders, for example. Like you can work really hard and get to the top, become super successful, make lots of money, build all the things that you wanted. But then you're like, there are two things here. It's either if your nervous system is not regulated.
Right.
Hmm?
That's offense, what you're talking, the approach. We're gonna forcibly move the ball down the field.
Yeah,
But
exactly. And what happens here is that if your nervous system is not regulated to the things that you are manifesting, it will be taken away. Like you will get it and then straight away it will be gone, right? And that's what we see with lottery winners, for example. Like they manifest this huge sum of money, but because their nervous system is not regulated about it, it's gone. And like I think there was a study that said 90% or 95% of lottery winners went bankrupt after like a year or two. So it's not because they don't know about money, it's because their nervous system
right.
is not regulated to handle it. Or the second case is you get the thing, but you feel empty and it does not fulfill you and you feel bad about it all. So you're not really enjoying it.
Wow, that's an important part right there. That's like trying to find yourself through external things. They never make you happy. That's why I focus on the feeling, and I feel that the state is more important. Like the state moves the ball down without offense. Force will move it down the field, but it's going to cost you something. Napoleon Hill talked about that too. He called it get enough, but don't get too much. It's like I've seen people pay too high of a price. It cost them everything, their family, their health, their life. You know what I mean? Those type
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the training balance scale. And I guess like we've been talking for a while, but it's
Okay.
a very interesting conversation. The last bit that we did not talk about though a lot is the four steps to processing new information. And I think this is important to touch on because what happens is that a lot of people give up because they feel like it's hard. And I guess like what I have my notes here. What Kevin talks about is the learning stages needed to get to your manifestation or to master any concept in general. But to get to your manifestation, you need these four learning stages. And the first one is unconscious incompetence. Like you don't know that you don't know, right? Like you're just out there stuck, as we said, but you don't know that you're stuck and you don't know why you're stuck and you're just like blind to it. But then once you see it, you move into conscious incompetence. You know that you don't know. You can see yourself being stuck, right? And then the third one is conscious competence. You know and must apply it intentionally. And this one I'm going to stop for a little bit because this one is an important one because this is where a lot of people give up because they find it hard. Like when I started applying the Kevin Trudeau's technique, where I started monitoring very, very carefully my feelings,
Mhm.
I found it really hard.
Right.
It's really fucking hard. Like you wouldn't like you're like feeling really angry and then you notice yourself feeling angry and you need to force yourself to snap out of it. You're like, I'm seeing myself being angry. This is like conscious competence. I need to start feeling good. How do I feel good? And your whole body can resist it, but you have to go through breaking that pattern because what then happens, the more you do it, you're creating new neural pathways in your brains, neuroplasticity, right? And this is backed by neuroscience. And you go into the fourth stage, which is unconscious competence, where it becomes automatic mastery. Now, whenever you catch yourself feeling bad or thinking a bad thought, or even the thoughts that you don't notice, you actually start noticing, which is amazing.
Right.
And you can catch yourself on the spot and just shift the thought like straight away. And it becomes like this masterful thing. And this is where a lot of people drop. And I would love to perhaps as maybe the last concept that we talk about because it's a really important one. Why is it that a lot of people feel resistance in changing thoughts patterns that they actually notice.
Well, because, well, one, if they're in the first category, they're oblivious to the obvious. They don't know. The second, the thing is the reason it's this way is because the whole way of life has been conditioning us the opposite. So there's your, if you want to go from the second to the third stage, there's your, y- to get to the third stage, you have to cross victimhood to responsibility.
Mm.
Most people turn back, they don't want it. And those he calls those 4 steps are really how a habit is formed. That's what he's telling you. That's what my mechanism of change, and in fact, my whole entire system is about. It's about getting humanity's baseline system conditioned into those higher states permanently. So, uh, first they need to assess where they are. Are they fighting themselves? Are they getting in their own way? If they are, or then that needs to be addressed. So that list you wrote down, are you actively working or are you trying to ignore it? If you're trying to ignore it, you're listening into the dialogue that won't take you where you want to go. So uh to get to the end, you need to find something you like to do and do it all the time. That's why I recommend the it's a year challenge because it's gonna take like 3 months. Unless you have a lot of trauma, then you're gonna have to go and overhaul everything in the way until your baseline state is predominantly good. And we didn't touch on eating, you mentioned it. That one's super important. Artificial sweeteners, diet soda, those sweeteners block neurotransmission. So if you're trying to manifest, those things prevent it. The way the food is blocks all of it trying to give you low energy. All problems are in the lower energy spectrum. So if you're trying to manifest, your whole vow to life should be getting up in the energy scale in every area, eating, exercise.
Mhm.
Like I notice people that are unregulated, they don't a lot of them don't exercise. Look, you got to move your body. Movement is the fastest way. EFT is good too. But back to the assessment. If you can flip switch in real time, that's what I call it. Alright, I got a shitty thought. I need to stop stinking thinking and reroute. If you can do that, then you're good. If whatever's going on emotionally or looping, then you need like tapping. That's what tapping
Mm.
does. It works to break that down so you can function how you actually want. The best example I ever thought of is, well, 2, is either a relationship or like road rage, because everybody gets it. When somebody goes in road rage, who's in control right now? Who's running the emotional machinery? The conditioning is. Same thing in a relationship. When the 2 partners start fighting, it's usually big because both people know where each person's buttons are. That's exactly what your conditioning's doing. It's controlling you through your emotions and thoughts. So until you start they tell you to be aware of your thoughts. Okay, now I know, but now what do I do?
Mm.
They're running my life. So that's where I was. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know how. Like I was searching for a how. How do I
Yeah.
cope with life? Well, you cope with life by processing emotions like when we were a kid. You watch a kid, they have a blowout, they cry, have a tantrum, and hour later, it's like it never happened. They're floating around, I mean, happy. That's the state. That's entering the kingdom of heaven. I'm not a religious person, but that's kind of what that means. You must be like a child. They mean the state, the energy. The state is the energy embodiment.
Yeah. And so to get very practical here, because you asked, right? It's like when you watch yourself be in that state, what do you do? So there are certain things that Kevin says, and then I'll add certain things that I have learned as well, because I think this is going to add value to anyone listening to this, which is when you catch yourself having a bad thought or like feeling bad or whatever. So Kevin talks about listening to music. You can put on your earphones and put your favorite track and start dancing, moving your body, even if you don't really feel like it, but that's going to automatically change your state. If you cannot do that, you can go for a walk. He says go for a walk and look very far away in the horizon. That actually like helps you regulate, get some sunlight. He talks about EFT. That's the one that we talked about. So if you are able to, you can. It's very easy to learn the protocol. I will also like link the newsletter where you talk about it, Stephen, in the follow up to this call, like to everyone watching. Um, because it's so important. If you learn the protocol, you can use tapping at any time, or you can literally just tap in your collarbone and breathe, and just like without saying anything, that will automatically start calming you. You can use breathing techniques. There are a lot of like really cool, easy to follow breathwork practitioners on YouTube, or like learning it by yourself, just some techniques. Like the one that I love to do is HRV breathing, which is like your exhale is longer than your inhale, and that really calms your heart rate. It's a great one. Then what you can do as well is perhaps this is something that I've learned from a hypnotherapist that I worked with. You can see those thoughts becoming butterflies and flying away from your brain, and you can choose whatever metaphor that makes you feel good. But this is a great one. When I see them leaving your body, movement, exercise, yoga, any type of that. And I would add to this also something really important is body work. And it's really like if you feel a lot of tension in your back, alongside with the EFT, it releases a lot that stays stuck in your body. So if you are able to, go get yourself like a massage that will help you untie the knots. There are like some various techniques, but so whatever feels most resonant to you, always follow your intuition, of course. But I feel like these are some of the things that people can do. Is there something that I missed or that you want to add on?
No, I just get so excited because you start running stuff off and I get ideas too. I think that it's if we're talking about manifesting, how about living in the manifestation? You want the house. Can you actually visually walk, you know what I'm saying, like, in your mind's eye and touch stuff? They call it spiritual sensation. Different things feel different. Can you actually generate that in your mind? And if you can't, then that means that your state's slightly you're at usually it means you're activated. Usually, we're not dysregulated. Dysregulated means you're activated most of the time, all the time. So yeah, breathing works real well. I think the technique you're talking is by Doctor Andrew Weil. The other protocol I like is Navy SEAL protocol. It's box breathing. They call it
Mm.
box because you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for another 4. I like to blend that with collarbone tapping, and then I have a 3rd protocol for Milton Erickson, and I'll tell you story, and then I'll give you that, and then I'll let you have the floor. It's basically Milton Erickson was a uh, he was more of a body language hypnotist. So he had a lady brought a kid in, and the kid was running circles around the desk, and instead of trying to meet the kid force with force, he met him where he was at. So he took a pencil and was tapping the pencil at the kid's pace, and he gradually slowed it down, and then eventually the kid came over and sat down. Because your heart will look to and train with whether you're in the environment, that's important too. So if you feel that's why when you feel good and you come into a dangerous environment, that energy's entering your field. But back to the tapping with that protocol, so if you're box breathing, the collarbone tapping, you can start the tapping wherever you're at. So if you're anxious, it's gonna be faster, and then gradually slow it with the breathing down until you're tapping like this. The one last thing I wanted to say is about something they call mental rehearsal and virtual practice. Most people do it for manifesting, but it works for tapping too. Uh, They've done experiments, just visualizing tapping on the points when you're stressing can also help. If you tap enough, you can still feel the tapping, so it'll help. This is what athletes and Olympians use these type of things. And one last thing, you could tell them that I already created something for them that they can download for free. You know what I mean? I'll give it to you, and they can download
Yeah.
it. You that covers everything we talked about, basically, and
I
probably
love that you just mentioned the last one about visual tapping because I was not aware that this was a thing, but I experienced it and I actually wanted to message you about it, then I forgot, but it was very recent. Um, I was falling asleep and I did not do the tapping that night because I was just so tired. And I was like, I should probably do the tapping, but I'm very tired. So I'm just going to fall asleep. But then my mind started doing exactly what you're describing. I started doing tapping rounds in my mind. And I started feeling that it was so real. I thought I was going crazy. I was like,
no.
what the fuck is happening? I'm literally tapping without using my body. And it felt like so trippy. It was amazing. But
Hey, no, no, that's your confirmation. That's the field giving you that. It's like when, like, if you work somewhere, if you're around somewhere and you hear that same song all the time, when you eventually that song starts playing in your head, that's confirmation that the conditioning took. So that's kind of what I'm working to teach
Mhm.
is how to attain those states and use something in your environment to keep bringing you back. But yeah,
Yeah. And that's basically manifestation, what we're talking about. When you're like, when you really tune into something and obsess over it. I was obsessed over EFT like for this past like few weeks because I found it such an amazing tool, but I conditioned myself to automatically use it whenever I need it. And at that point, so this is actually really great for what we're talking about because it shows you the power how your mind can override your body when manifesting certain things
right.
because at that point my body did not want to move. I was like wanting to sleep, but I still made it work. I still made it happen. It still manifested in that EFT session, still manifested in my field. And so it's the same thing when you are manifesting something because the more you think about it, the stronger your signal emits, the more you obsess about it repeatedly, the more it will like for sure come into your reality. But you
Whoever
got to continue obsessing over it.
whoever has the cleanest signal has the strongest manifestation. You know,
Hmm.
it's as simple as that. If you're not getting back what you want, there's a problem with the signal. But most
Yeah.
people want to look out there. They don't get that it's coming from inside you. You know, inner states create outer reality, so to speak.
Yeah. And actually, like the best way to do this, and again, like to get very practical and mindful about getting practical, because those are the steps that we had missing from like all the gurus that are teaching us about law of attraction. But to get very practical here, just start somewhere. Decide what it is that you want to manifest, find the sweet spot. Maybe you will think that that's the sweet spot. But so I'll talk from personal experience. I was trying to manifest something, then it would just not come through. I thought it was the sweet spot. I was getting excited when I thought about it, etc. But then a few months passed and I was like, where the fuck is it? Like, why isn't it happening? I'm doing all the things right, you know? But what I did here is use curiosity. I stopped and said, okay, let me review this statement. What is happening? And the problem is that I had put a deadline on it. So that was adding a lot of pressure. And I did not realize it because I was feeling the excitement. Underneath the excitement, there was pressure that I was not feeling, that I was not really perceiving, let's say. But when I stopped and questioned, I then perceived it. Your mind, your subconscious is so intelligent that when you stop and question it, it will give you the answer. So this is such a practical step. If you are really at that place where you're like, because at the beginning, what was happening? I was questioning, why isn't it not here? Why isn't it not here? And then I would hear gurus saying, you shouldn't question why it's not here. You should just trust that it will arrive. But I was questioning. I couldn't force myself to stop questioning. I was really feeling that
That's
something was wrong.
that's the conditioning. That's the conditioning, though. Like, uh, nothing's wrong. Essentially, like it's the very state is blocking it.
Yeah.
It was coming, but now you've repelled it by you have to make it non-transactional. It's like when you're courting a partner. That energy, that high energy, that's the state we're going through. You're courting because it's a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, that's the best state I can think of where most people understand that state. It's like a high, like in your cheek,
Hmm.
but it's not outside of yourself, though. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. But here's like the little caveat that I will put on here because if you feel something is wrong, usually something is wrong, right? Like at that point, I
right,
was questioning why isn't it happening, and that question was meant to show me that something was wrong in my statement or in my sweet spot. I was not in my sweet spot. Do you see?
it
That's
was
why I was questioning, and
no,
that's what Kevin talks about, which is basically when you are in your sweet spot you are not questioning,
right,
right? But the gurus tell you force yourself not to question.
yeah.
Kevin tells you no, if you are questioning that means this is not what you should be manifesting. Go back at it, change your statement until you're not questioning. That's the difference.
But
Do you see?
they're hoarding the term first. Uh, they don't. It's what they don't want you to know. I agree with you. I kind of lost my thought. What was your point again? Tell me a little.
Yeah, my point is that it's not about forcing a change in how you are feeling towards something. It's about finding something that feels easy to start with. So at that point in time, that specific manifestation was not coming, and I was questioning it because that was not right for me. When I changed it, however, it came super fast.
But
It came super fast because I was very aligned.
the question, that's where I lost my thought. The question is the evaluation.
Mhm.
That's the awareness. Okay, so why am I feeling this? I should, not I again, we're back to disempowering and empowering questions and states, not why does this always happen to me? Why do I feel this way? What does that create? Creates a negative loop, and now you're downward spiral. Well, you can
Mhm.
spiral going up too. Live in
Yeah.
that, you know what I'm saying? Live in that new house. Imagine going for that romantic walk with your future partner. Live in that future business where you're changing humanity. You know what I mean? That's how you get it,
Yeah.
and you're right. That's what I meant by assessing where you're at. If you're not
Yeah.
moving, there's a block, and you need to explore. We need to dig and excavate because that's how you get to the truth. Avoidance never works.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess like something you said is, and this is like again, I will share with everyone the seminars so you can listen and you can go through that journey yourself because there's so much more depth than what we are covering here. But there's something else that you said that reminded me of something that Kevin says, which is once you have identified that sweet spot, then you can reinforce it by bringing in future objects into your current field. So if you're manifesting a house, you can go in and buy like a keychain or something and say, this is the one for my new house, right?
right.
And just have those symbolic objects around you that anchor that reality.
It's active faith too. You're actually
Mhm.
that's the part you're supposed to do. You should be compelled to wanna do stuff. Like, when you like, if I get keyed up on enough music, I wanna do something. I wanna write, I wanna play, I wanna, you know what I mean? I wanna do something because that's what it's supposed to do. And as far as, like, the concept, everybody thinks at the beginning they could be Lao Tzu at the end. Nothing is done, but everything happens. That means the conditioning's complete. So now you don't have to actively monitor your state. You've conditioned your state. If you we can co wha I if we could condition consciously our baseline state that makes the manifesting on autopilot, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah.
Everybody wants everything else but that because it's hard work, but
Yeah.
what I'm asking, why wouldn't we want that? That's what I want, because then your life unfolds. It's the synchronicity that people want. It's really, I don't know any other way unless you're blessed with permanent awakening, which that's the exception. Most people's awakening is suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to go through the discomfort. That's the thing. It's like you have to go through the four conscious competence like learning steps that Kevin talks about and move through the discomfort. And understand that there is no way around it. Like the only way is through, basically.
Right. Either you
Yeah.
choose or by not choosing, you've chosen. Now you're going to let the environment dictate what your life will be.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
we've moved, anybody who's watched this is no longer in that first group. They're now in conscious incompetence. So now it's responsibility. Like, do they want it or they don't? Either way is okay. I mean, it's their life, their choice.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are watching and you are now aware of the blockages, you see what you are able to see and you understand, like you can start choosing differently and you can start reconditioning your mind using the tools that we've shared here. I will share more tools from Steven. I will share the tools from Kevin as well. And yeah, you got everything you need
We
to
covered
go
it.
ahead and manifest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel, Steven? We've been talking for 2 hours. It's an amazing topic, but do you feel that we touched on everything? Is there one last point or one last thing, one last message that you want to give to the people watching, or you feel complete?
I honestly, I think I've unpacked everything that I want. Really, the most important part is get out of your go do something else while you're waiting. And two, it's got to be, you must experience the end state of what you want physiologically. So
Yeah.
those are to the two parts that the gurus usually take out. And then the overhaul is the third. Whatever's in the way, you're going to have to deal with. You can't hack nature. I'll leave it with that. I can't top that. You can't hack nature.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You can't hack nature, and you shouldn't even try.
Right.
And I guess to finish it off, I will sum up very quickly again. Like, what is the secret that we talked about? Is that you need to find the sweet spot when you're manifesting. It's not about forcing yourself to feel good about this huge manifestation that is outside of what your nervous system can hold. And the way you know it is how you feel towards it. If you want to manifest, for example, money, if you say $10 million by the end of the year, and that's completely unrealistic and that makes you feel anxious, this is not going to work. You're not going to manifest it. And your role is not to try to feel good about this, is to go back and say, what is the sum of money that I can manifest now without putting a time limit on that will make me feel good? If
Right.
there is no sum of money specifically, you can say something like, I manifest a sum of money that makes me feel good. And the universe will bring you whatever your nervous system is able to hold. But the way that the universe will bring it is by you transmitting a frequency, obsessing over that, like, I want this sum of money. I want this sum of money, and feeling good and like staying in that feeling that this manifestation, this thought about manifestation is bringing you. Like you got to feel good about it and then all the good things, listen to music, hang out with friends, like go for a walk, eat good food, and really find what makes you feel good, what makes you feel beaming through that same frequency, that same feeling. Hold on to that, stay in it, and take action even if it goes against what your logic is saying,
Right.
because you never know how that sum of money or whatever it is that you are manifesting will come into your life. You have to trust the unseen. You have to trust the unknown. You have to trust yourself that you will, like, that it will find you, that you will find it, but you have to take action. If it's going to be through this business idea that you got, you have to go out there and start taking the proactive steps to build your business. You cannot just sit back and wait for it to fall into your lap. No, that's not going to work. And I guess like the other thing is whenever you start thinking bad, feeling bad, you should, like, you will start becoming aware of those states and you can shift them, not by ignoring them, by taking, again, tools that we shared here. There is EFT that is very simple. Once you grasp it, once you learn it, you can use it at any time. You can use music. You can literally put your earphones and listen to music and shift that state. You can use breath work, you can use walks, you can use like all different things. But the key here is to catch yourself whenever you start feeling bad. whenever you start thinking about something bad, whenever you start spiraling, and get yourself out of out of that space. And this is the most difficult part
Right.
about manifesting. But these are the 4 steps to processing new information that we talked about, and that I will be sharing with you all. And I guess this is it, and obsessing over it
I
until
have
it comes.
one more thing to add what you said. Think of it as like energetic bootstrapping. You can't make a quantum leap. If you're in despair, just try to go up a little bit. Wherever
Mhm.
you're at, if you focus on meeting yourself where you're at and working up, it'll go a lot better. You'll be building regulation to handle the mansion or whatever you want. And also, the other thing is daily mental rehearsal. If
Mm.
you're trying to accumulate a lot of money, you should be visualizing counting. You should be able to smell the money, touch the money, like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Whatever it is, walking with your future partner, going to the place, going into the like, that should be every day, and if you can't do it, what's going on? That should be the question. We're back to what Maya said. What's blocking it? What dialogue or what's getting in the way? There's what you need to work on and unpack. Because then when you deal with that, you move up another rung, and then something else will come up, and then it'll keep going like that. There won't be a clean escalator to the top. I'm sorry to tell you, there just
Yeah.
won't.
Yeah. 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 So that's for you people. Like whomever tells you manifest this huge goal unrealistic, tell them no. I will go with my feelings. Trust in yourself. Trust in your intuition. It's so important. You know better than anyone else. And maybe you know, like, not maybe, you for sure know even better than both of us speaking now, right? Like, your intuition will guide you to the right places, but you have to learn to listen to it. And I think that from you was the final message that I wanted to say. Learn to listen to yourself.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
important.
Totally agree. Yo, it's
Yeah.
been a blast, man. I love it. We should do it again, please.
Absolutely. We are going to do it. We will be doing it on different on other topics we can link up, like, and then decide. And for whomever is watching, go ahead and subscribe to Steven. He's sharing incredible tools about all things. I was gonna say, like, dystopian meets reality meets healing. Like, it's incredible. And go ahead, subscribe to the Unstoppable Women as well, which is my newsletter. And I will be sharing with you everything that we talked about, all the tools. I'll be sharing a link to Kevin Trudeau's seminar as well that you can find for free, which I found somewhere online after like digging a lot. And you can listen to it, and please send us your feedback. I would love to hear from anyone listening here.
Any questions, anything like that,
Mm.
because they can also tell us what the next topic
Yeah.
maybe we missed something or there's something that interests them now. They want us to unpack just that. You know what I mean? We can do that. But we'll try to keep it informal as well. So it's not, you know what I mean? It's not like a clinical sleep fest.
I think we've done good at being
Oh,
informal. I think it was pretty cool.
yeah,
Just coming here and talking intuitively, I would say.
yes, definitely. Yeah, man. So
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you to everyone listening, and please do send us your feedback and your questions, and we will see you next time. Bye. Bye.